I'm Mirin Fader, and this is a Lou Capetta show.
Welcome everybody once again to another episode of the Lou Capetta Show. I'm your host, Lou Capetta. I have a guest this week, as usual. If you read Bleacher Report, you most certainly have read her work. Very, very terrific sports writer for Bleacher Report, and amongst others, Mirin Fader. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. So are you writing exclusively for Bleacher Report?
I am.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. Because I know because you've done stuff for ESPN and Sports Illustrated through your career, right?
Yeah. I was at the Orange County Register, and then I freelanced for a bunch of places, including those two. So happy to be in one place now.
and Bleacher Report usually has a lot of like guest writers and revolving doors. So not revolving door, but a lot of writers, I guess, freelance, and that's pretty cool that you're just writing there exclusively. That is a big that's a big platform. It's a really good platform too. How did you get there? Because you've been writing for about 5 years. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, technically like 7, but 5 out of college. Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
No. I do that. I do that a lot. So,
I do that all the time. This is what it is like to have a phone interview with me. Every time I interview somebody, I'm like, oh, sorry to interrupt you. So it's been a journey though.
I do that in person, just so you know too. So don't feel bad. Yeah. So all right. So talk to me about that, because that's a relatively short time span to end up somewhere so prestigious and doing really, really great work as well.
Well, thank you for that. I'm so grateful to be at Bleacher Report. It has been a journey. I guess the start of it was I was an athlete. I was a basketball player. Absolutely love basketball as my life. I was one of those people that was like, I will die for this. It wasn't just a hobby. Right. It wasn't just something I did. It was just like who I saw myself as and who I wanted to be. Ended up playing my first year in college at Lewis and Clark College in Oregon, and then decided to switch gears, ended up transferring to Occidental College out here. I've been a writer my whole life, but it wasn't something that was public. It was just something I did on my own, something I needed to do, honestly. It was a refuge for me. It was an escape. Actually, I have so many angsty journals from my teenage years of just everything that went wrong with basketball. I would just put it on the page. But then I realized that, this was something that I could use for a career. This is something that could get me back into basketball and get me back into sports. And it was like the perfect thing for me. And so, I started when I was in college freelancing for Slam, Dime, SB Nation, did a couple internships with the Clippers, with the Sparks, ABC Sports. Then I was at the OC Register for just over 4 years, and I was freelancing on the side for ESPN and Bleacher. And then thankfully Bleacher hired me. So I love being here.
So that's fun. So I know all about a lot of the angst that goes along with high school girls basketball. Both of my daughters,
it's real.
Played high school basketball, and they both played college ball too. They played at our local community college. My oldest daughter, who's 21, she played 2 years, and then her younger sister played a year. What position did you play? By the way, I just want to know. I love women's basketball. By the way,
it's great, right?
Yeah, it's aggressive.
It's intense.
It's intense. Like, for as much as it's played like below the rim, and I guess you hear that sometimes from people who maybe can't get into it, or at least I have. It's so intense. It really is. I was that. So I'm 5'1". So I was that scrappy, prove you wrong,
you're doubting me. I'm going to dive for the ball. Like I've injured everything that you could possibly injure. I just loved it so much. And, so yeah, I played point, loved to shoot. I wished I was taller. I was like shooting guard and a point guard body. But absolutely love the intensity of girls basketball.
My younger daughter, she's 5'3" and she was a point guard, and she was like that, a pit bull. My oldest is she's just under 6 feet, and she was a guard too. She was a shooter. She didn't like to to bang down low or rebound. As a matter of fact, the one year my little daughter actually averaged more rebounds than my older daughter, which is I would get mad because I was not that dad, but I'd be like, really, come on, you're 6 feet tall, like, come on.
I actually loved boxing out. I actually tore my meniscus boxing out because nobody would expect me to be there. And then there's that sweet spot right in the middle of the key. And if you just box out a tall person that just exists because they're tall, they're not going to get it. And I ended up tearing my meniscus. But the hustle counts.
It does, yeah. It does. All right, so your love of so you have a genuine love of sports, so that led you into sports writing through basketball. So I guess basketball is your favorite sport?
It is. And it's funny because when I first started sports writing, I was like, okay, I only want to write about basketball. And then quickly I found out how wrong I was. It's so much more exciting to write about all sports. So I'm pretty much the only person at Bleacher Report that doesn't have like a beat, and that's on purpose. I love writing about random things. And it started at the OC Register. My first day, they were like, you're going to do baseball and then softball and then water polo. And so suddenly I got introduced to all these things, and I realized like there's so many universal themes that I could write about that go on with different sports. And basketball is what got me here, but it's not ultimately the thing that's going to keep me there.
So I'm gonna say, so I got into this, I started a little bit later. I write as well, and actually, what got me into this and rediscover my love of writing and stuff was I wrote for Bleacher Report when they first started, when they basically just let anybody write for them.
Wow.
But I was Mets one of the first featured columnists and stuff. Like I still know, like I conversed with, I don't know if Joe Yanarella is still there.
Yeah.
Those and it was a really, really great platform. And there were some really good writers too that went on to do some pretty decent things. Samantha Bunton is off the top of my head is one of them. But I'm glad that it's more professional now, because I don't know if you read any of the stuff from the early days. Some of it was awful. It was just dreck. It was so bad. All right, so I'm recording right now.
Okay.
All right, so there may be if you're listening to this, there may be a little hiccup there after I was telling my wonderful story about how I used to write for Bleacher Report back in the days where they just allow anybody to write for them. So if you heard the little hiccup there, we had a little bit of issue here, but we're back. So we're good. Mirin, you're still there?
I am still here.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. All right. So yes. Okay. So one really cool thing that I think, and this was always a problem that not a problem that I had with it, but especially when I was writing, did stuff for Bleacher Report, it was a lot of like slideshows and quick media stuff, and I liked, and I still do like long form writing, and that's something that you are terrific at. That you write a lot of long form pieces. I've read, they're really great, and I find it you're a relatively young writer in an age where everything is short attention spans, quick. Yet you really succeed at long form writing. Is that, or do you like doing that? And do you ever worry that maybe there's not as much of an audience for that type of writing anymore as there may have been, in the past?
Well, thanks for saying that. I mean, yes, I do worry about that all the time, but I love long form so much, and I'm just glad to be at a place that, appreciates that type of work. We have come a long way. Bleacher is very different than it was when you were writing for it. It rebranded, and, BR Mag, it's awesome. It's our managing editor, Christina Tapper, she encourages us to take those deep dives. I mean, she's amazing. Like, I love working for her, and she encourages that. But definitely, I hear it all the time that, people don't want to read long form, and, but I just think that we're dumbing ourselves down. I just think that we're not appreciating our own intelligence. Like, we're telling ourselves that we have short attention spans. And the truth is that now more than ever, I feel we need substantial content. We need smart content. We need smart people in these positions writing these stories. When a long form is done correctly, I don't ever think you finish it and say, oh, what a waste of time. You know what I mean? And there's so much content out there that is crappy. And, why aren't we talking about that? I think that, there will always be a place for good storytelling. I don't know what that is. It stresses me out all the time, but I'm just glad to be able to write it, because some things just can't be explained in shorter features. When I was at the OC Register, it's a newspaper, and I'm so thankful for that experience. But the thing that was always hard for me is everything that I wanted to do was always cut. It was like, there's not enough inches. Come on, there's not enough space. And so, they used to break my heart in half when I wanted to do a longer feature. So I just think that, we really need to start embracing smart content, longer content. It has a place. It has a purpose. It's not just words for words. It really matters.
I like to think that if it's, first of all, people discover things that they want to read, and then once they do, if it's written well enough, it's going to be, nobody's gonna, like you said, nobody's gonna care that it was a longer piece, or it was so many number of words, and it wasn't just a quick slideshow that you click through, or you have to click every other page. So I think I think we've gotten away from that. Like, it's really got to be, like you said, the content. If the content is there, people are going to be drawn in to a point where, like you said, they're not going to care about their time. So, to a certain extent, I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes down to like what it just comes down to like, what do you value? Like, why is it a bad thing that you've invested time in a wonderful story that a writer took so much time and care to make and agonized over every sentence? I think that's a great use of your time. I think it's funny with long form. It's like I always feel like this, like long form writers, it's almost like we have to cure cancer or something to be worthy, versus there's like so much crap on the internet, and nobody's like, oh, what's the purpose of that? That's not doing anything. And, I think people are just allowed to entertain, but a good long form can do so many things. It can entertain. It can give you knowledge. It can nourish you. It can make you think about something. My goal with every feature is to just make it interesting. I just want to make it interesting. I just want people to read from the top to the bottom and learn something they haven't learned before. And if people don't want to take the time to do that, that sucks. But I still think that there's something to be learned from long form.
That says something about, that's a character flaw on their end. I'll say it. That's if you gotta sometimes you just gotta take the time and read. Reading is good.
You're cutting in and out. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, sometimes you just gotta take the time to read, because reading is beneficial.
Tell the listeners one more time if they did not hear that. Reading is beneficial.
That's right. Reading. I was going to say reading is fundamental, but I think that's trademarked or copyright.
Let's do that too. Reading is fundamental. Everyone, go pick up a book. Support your local independent bookstore. I have a rotation of them. I will be going on Small Business Saturday. You should too.
Now,
quick plug for the written word.
That's it. Shout out to the written word. We love you here.
We love you.
Well, it depends, because sometimes we love you, but it all depends on who's writing the word, because there are plenty of, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I think that ends up being a problem too. Is that people have to, in right now, not that I want to get into the whole fake news thing or whatever, but people do kind of have to fish through so much now just to find stuff worth reading. So that becomes
you're cutting in and out. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening. I can't hear you.
Oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening either. I see it. I see it cutting in and out, but you can hear me now.
Okay, I can hear you now. Yeah, we're good. The struggle interview.
This. That's all right though. This is the show
good.
Must go on.
We got this.
We're doing good.
We got this.
Yeah. Oh my God. All right. So I'm just gonna get to something else I want to ask you before this thing cuts out, and then I don't get to know the stuff that I want to know. So you got to profile a pretty you've written a couple of articles about them. Sorry if I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but a pretty polarizing basketball family, the Balls.
Yes.
So that's got to be pretty interesting.
It was interesting. How the heck did I end up in Lithuania? Is an interesting story. Yeah, I was a freelancer at the time. I was just left the OC register, and I was freelancing for Bleacher Report. And Christina called me, and she was like, "Do you want to do this?" There was no question. That was an opportunity of a lifetime. Honestly, we'll never be able to repay them for that. But yeah, the story that I came to write was not the story I ended up with. I was just going to profile the Mellow Ball, 16-year-old takes Europe, kind of a fun thing. But it ended up being a really chaotic story. Basically, family overtakes the basketball club and turns it around, flips it all up so that they play really bad competition. And then the kid isn't being challenged, and the family, there's a lot of drama. And yeah, there's a kid who's kind of the victim of all of it. So very chaotic. I spent more than 3 weeks there, but it was such an awesome experience.
Right. Were you really, as somebody who played sports, played at a high level as well, were you surprised at like what goes on when it's somebody who is really maybe shows potential to play at the highest level? Just the whole young kid. He dropped out. He went overseas, just like you said. They're playing lesser competition, and just how, man, I don't know the word. Maybe just how, I don't want to say seedy, because that sounds really bad, but I you know what I'm saying.
Right. I know what you're saying. I was surprised that they went to this club at first, because I think what you're trying to say is basically they're going to this town in the middle of nowhere, this little tiny club. And this is not exactly Hollywood, Showtime, Ball family, but they basically brought that to this little town. And so there were, their reality show was filming every single second. I mean, but I thought they would go to a bigger club that would challenge Mello, but they didn't. And they wanted him to shine. And so, they basically ran the club. Like I went to practice for 3 weeks, and they didn't run a single sprint in 3 weeks. As a basketball player, I thought that was like unheard of, right? Like I have vivid memories of 7th grade AAU throwing up because we did like a million 17 after 17 after 17 because this girl didn't make it. And that was one of the worst days of my life. So vivid. And so I was like, okay, how are we not doing a single suicide? This is nuts. Then I was like, this is not a real team. And then I realized that, the family was really in charge of it. But instead of just saying, well, hey, this isn't really a professional squad, a feature, what you always want to do is you want to show the human toll of whatever's happening. So the story is as much about what what happens to this 16-year-old kid as it is whatever's happening with their stats in their league. You always have to show the human side. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be like, hey, I was here. I saw this. This is the human impact. This is how it's affecting this kid, this family, and everyone involved.
What did you, was it difficult? Is it difficult even not just with the balls? I'm using them a little bit because of how polarizing they are to the rest of us. But is it difficult at times to stay reporting and not veer off accidentally into maybe an opinion piece?
That's a good question. I don't think so for me, because I don't do that type of writing. And I understand that, like, you know, to be a feature writer, it's not about you. And I think that that's something that I really care deeply about. I read a lot of profiles that are like, right, you know, I was in the elevator with Nicki Minaj and we're going to go have salads. And, you know, I don't want to be that, right? Well, that sounds kind of fun, but I don't want to be that writer. I want to be the distanced writer who's like, it's not about me. I'm not the show. This is about them. And so I don't put my voice in there. I don't say something is right or wrong. I just try to show all sides, because people are really complex. So in the story, you see that LeVar is not all good and he's not all bad. He's wheeling Tina around in her wheelchair. At the same time, he's making this huge dramatic scene that's totally inappropriate during the game. Mello is very, very, you know, cocky, but he's also like very vulnerable. In another story, not to take us on a tangent, the story I did on a 13-year-old who committed suicide after having a concussion. Yes. In no place in that story did I say football is good or football is bad. I like to let my subjects have the story. Like, it's about them. And I'm just trying to, basically, I'm looking at something and I see it with my eyes and I take so many notes. And now my job is, as the writer, is to paint a picture for the reader to see it, and then they can make up their mind.
Right. Now that's an article. I'm going to be honest with you. I have not read that article yet. I'm meaning to, but I need to. So I have a 19-year-old son who suffered a really bad traumatic brain injury last year. And even prior to that, in high school, his latter years in high school, he had started to develop some like not quite CTE, but some differences in personality due to numbers of concussions from sports. He was, he wrestled, he played baseball, but also football, and he was a small kid.
Yeah.
Entire time growing up, but he was he hit people hard, and he was just a bulldog, a real tough football player, and he would never come out of a game. He suffered a lot of concussions, and it really, at latter years of high school, went from a honor student to it really altered his personality. So I've been actually meaning to read that, but I haven't been able to, for my own personal reasons, been able to really bring myself to that, because, luckily my son is still here. He's never killed himself. He has, he's struggled with severe bouts of depression even before his severe brain injury. So, his mother and I, they really have talked about the fact that we think that a lot of it is football related, to the point where we have a 7-year-old son that we love, and we loved watching him play sports, but we will not sign him up for football because of it. And I don't want to say, like you said, that football is bad, but that is that had to be a really difficult story to tell without putting your feelings involved in it. Is that true?
Yeah,
Do you feel that way?
that
Was that a tough one?
that was the toughest story I've ever written by far. There were just times where I like to write in coffee shops, and I would just get like very emotional, and I'm in a public place, but I think I just kept telling myself, like, if you're going there, that means that you're doing what you need to do. If you're not going there and it's not affecting you,
Right.
it's not going to affect the reader. And so everything you just said basically was a big part of the story. I think that, like I said, in features, in storytelling, you want to show the human impact. I'm talking about this kid in Orange County, but it has so many universal effects because there are a lot of people who have gone through similar things. And so basically his personality changed from this to that as a result of the concussions. And it just talks about all the myriad of effects that can happen. So it's not just about CTE. Yeah. So that's the story. And so it's not just about CTE. It's about all the things that can happen. It's about, boys that, there are ones that are still living, obviously, perhaps like your son, that are just kind of walking through the world with all these symptoms and they don't quite know where they come from. And then they realize, oh, maybe it has to do with football. And so that was a really hard story to write, but it was really important. And I think that, I'm obviously grateful to that family for opening up to me, but it taught me a lot about reporting. When we talk about the value of long form, that's not a story you can get in a 10-minute soundbite. I spent hours and hours with that family. I got to know them. I put myself in their world. I thought about that kid all the time. I still do. It still haunts me. So I think that, when we talk about the value of long form writing, we're really talking about the value of long form reporting, because it takes hours, but it's valuable. I got so many emails from parents and people, just so many people that were just like, wow, now I feel like I understand what's happening to my son, or wow, that literally happened to us, or wow, that happened to me. And I had just had a concussion from skiing and I had no idea this is why I'm feeling this way, And so if you write a story that can really connect with people, I feel like that's worth it. I feel like that's important.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to bring myself to read it. I tried to read it. Like I said, I couldn't bring myself to, but had so my son was he was attacked, and so had he not suffered that injury, we had a very, very difficult time getting him properly diagnosed. And I'm at my day job. I'm in a construction union. I have phenomenal insurance, and it still was. But because he had such a severe brain injury, then we got to be seen by teams of neurosurgeons and things like that. Where luckily now he's had several diagnoses and able to help him, but he went it's just like you were saying, it was a severe change in him, and that is I never wanted to bring that correlation that it was football. And I'm not even a huge football fan, but I loved watching my son play football. It was I loved it. He played in high school. I got a real sense of pride in it, but that's crazy. That is man, God bless you. I just coming from a parent who I feel like I'm rambling now, but coming from a parent who's been through it, I want to thank you, because I'm sure that you have helped with that piece a lot of people. And as soon as we're done here, I'm going to bring myself to read it. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And that's the thing, we all have our things that we're like, oh, I don't want to read this. This is so personal. But that's actually, I think that's the reason why I love doing this, just because it's it has the potential to potentially, mean something to someone, just as somebody takes the time to read it. I just love that. That's why we go see movies, right? We want to see ourselves in movies. There's universal themes, and that's honestly what keeps me going. There are really important stories out there, and I'm just really motivated. Honestly, I'm just really motivated. There's so many stories I want to tell. I just get ideas, and there's so much that I want to do that I haven't done yet. But I think sports is the best avenue for it, because people don't understand, athletes are people too, and they have just really important things to say.
Now, one of the things that we were just talking about, but I found it pretty impressive, and also made me think of somebody where you're talking about not making yourself part of the story. I don't think enough journalists do that in this day and age. There is one journalist I can think of that I got the pleasure to talk to a few times, who abides by that. And you said, you told me before we really started recording that he is your mentor. That's Jeff Pearlman.
Yes.
So, all right. So tell us really how I know I did listen to the episode that you were on his podcast. Jeff Pearlman, I've made it known he is my favorite author. He wrote my favorite book because I'm a huge Mets fan. So the Bad Guys One is my favorite book. I'm almost finished with the new book,
That's
which
good.
is really terrific. It's really really funny. But yeah, so tell us how Jeff became your mentor, and because I see, just the way you're talking stuff, you really have taken a lot of, or it seems like you've taken a lot of his ideals with you as a traditional journalist, and very important ideals that aren't really that prevalent in a lot of journalism today.
I've learned so much from Jeff. I mean, I can't even tell you everything I've learned. I mean, about making the extra call, in my stories, you'll see I interview like 20 people. That's from Jeff. Jeff taught me that. He's like, always make the extra call. I don't care how tired you are, always make the extra call. And he taught me to mine for details. Like, don't just say it was a coffee cup, say it was a mocha drizzle with a little bit of caramel on the side and blah, blah, blah. And right. I met Jeff. So I was, like I said, I was at the Orange County Register. He was my favorite writer, my favorite author, still is. And he does his blog. And so he did a blog post, moving to Orange County. And I decided, what the hell, I'm just going to DM him. Right. And I was like, hey, I just started at the OC Register. I just graduated college. I graduated from Occidental in 2013. And I was like, can we please meet up? I'd love to pick your brain. And he makes fun of me to this day because I took out a notebook because I was sincerely trying to write down what he had to tell me. And he's like, are you serious? And I was like, I am dead serious. And he's like, put away the notebook. So anyways, yeah, he makes fun of me all the time for that. But I love Jeff so much. I mean, he does not have to do what he does. And he sat with me the whole day. He was on deadline that day for a story. And I was like, are you serious? When I'm on deadline, I can't even function. And he was just talking to me. And I was like, this guy's a legend. And ever since then, he's always been there for me. I mean, I've been through so many tough times in this industry and just really needed somebody to set me straight. Or, when I say like, Jeff, how's my lead? He honestly will tell me, hey, like, this isn't as good, or this is really good. But nobody cheers me on more. Nobody is more proud of me than Jeff. And I'm just like so freaking thankful. And also because like you want to have people that are doing things that you want to do. Like I want to be an author. I haven't written my first book yet. I basically have all these ideas and sort of like half-baked proposals, and I've sent it out and, just haven't quite gotten that together yet, but he's really the model for me for that. And I think a lot of older journalists, what you'll hear, they'll say, get out of the industry. It's so awful. It's the Great Depression. Don't go into this. Jeff was like, if you love this and you're willing to work your ass off, go for it. And I really respect that. And so it is weird for me now that young journalists come up to me because I'm really young and I'm trying to figure out my life. I'm 27, but I encourage them because he encouraged me.
That's he's a cool dude. I'm 40. I started a family young, really young, and I had to go to work, so I ended up dropping out of school. I recently, now that I have some grown kids, I went back to school, and I reached out to him the same thing. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm doing I'm trying to be a journalist myself. And I started this podcast. I had also started like a blog. I wrote some things, different websites, stuff like that. And I literally, same thing. I reached out to him on Twitter and I was like, hey, can I talk to you sometime? Maybe you come on a podcast. And he responded like right away.
Right.
I was just expecting him to just like never respond. I'm just like, well, whatever. Let's just see. And Yeah, and there's even sometimes like the first time I spoke to him, I was actually in a journalism class, and I was telling him about some projects and stuff like that, and he's just a cool guy, and a great writer, a great journalist, and you definitely I don't want to speak for him, but I know that you have to be making him proud because you are you're terrific too. So
Thank you. It's funny, like
and
I've met some. I'm sorry, I was going to say I've met some really cool writers in this industry this year. That's the one thing that really impressed me is like people are really nice. You know, I think this industry, we're all going through it, and we're all like, oh my god, what are we doing? What is this industry? But there are some truly nice people out there, like really hardworking journalists. There really are in this industry. It doesn't get talked about enough because everyone's always like, oh, what bad thing is happening now? What layoffs? But there's a lot of good people in this industry trying to make it.
Now, what have you thought about venturing maybe eventually even away from sports, doing maybe writing about other interests you have or anything like that, or even just still doing sports, and maybe I know you mentioned something about possibly writing some books.
Yeah, I definitely think eventually I either want to be like a hybrid sports writer that does like the same thing I'm doing now plus non-sports features. Like I see myself eventually just being like a features writer, because I think at the end of the day, it's so much more about the people than the sports. Like Eli Saswell at the Washington Post, that would kind of be like a dream thing for me eventually. He just he writes about really interesting, fascinating people and national issues. And I think just the key for me is just staying open. I love sports, and I think what this did for me was heal all my basketball stuff. You know, I wanted that. I wanted basketball to be my life for so long, and I worked a decade for that dream. And when it didn't happen, I was so depressed and I was so lost. And sports writing really healed me. And it really serves that, a great purpose in my life. But you never know. I could eventually venture out of it. But I definitely want to be a book writer, even though the goal is sports nonfiction books. I love fiction. And most of what I read is not sports. So you never know.
Right. Wow. So that's maybe you'll write a fiction book one day.
Maybe. now I'm kind of into it.
Wow. So that's good. So what everything that you've written, what if you had to pick one piece or one assignment that you thought was your most interesting, what would it be?
I mean, I know we already talked about it. I'm sorry to go back, but I'll bring new info. It was the Lithuania one because, you know, I was at a crossroads in my career at that point. I had just left the Register. We had layoffs. It was awful. I really questioned myself. I really questioned if I had a future in this industry. I really felt lost. Like I wasn't getting to where I wanted to be. Like I saw all these people that were doing well, and I was like, why am I not as good as these people? Or like, why am I not getting the full-time job? Like, why isn't this working out for me? And I really had to take a leap of faith. And honestly, thank God for Bleacher Report and the trust that, you know, Christina and Matt Sullivan and others there had in me to give me this assignment and then hire me, because it just really showed me how much toughness is required to be in this industry and keep going. I was over there by myself for a really long time, and it was such a blessing and a great thing, but it was also really challenging. I mean, on day 3, LeVar and company were like, we're not going to talk to you, and we're not going to talk to any media, so you should go home. So imagine like so imagine you're like so imagine you're like sent overseas for the biggest assignment of your life. You're 26 years old at the time. This is your like chance to prove it. You're trying to get hired full time, and then you don't have access to your subjects. You're in a foreign country. Like you're not eating well. You're sick. You're hungry. You feel like crap, and you have to really get it together. And I think that was for me a moment of like toughness, but also just taking a leap of faith and being like, I trust myself as a reporter. I'm learning to trust my voice. And that's why I'm proud of that story, to be honest, because it was so hard. It was so hard, but it was so worth it. It was so worth it.
Yeah. I mean, just to throw my 2 cents in here, I don't think that I could spend 3 weeks with LeVar Ball. Like, I'm sorry.
It was a lot.
Yeah. That's a very, very nice way to put it. He seems like a lot.
But can I say something though? I need to give proper due to my editor on this, Christina Tapper. I don't know an editor who will call you overseas every single day for 3 weeks. And she did. There's a lot of editors these days that do not care about you at all. I mean, they really don't. Right. They really do not. This is a tough business. People, have meetings and interviews. She cared about me. She cares about me. And the only reason I got through that is because she would check in with me every day and be like, you got this. What can you draw out? What is LeVar doing? What is this? And so her enthusiasm kept me going. But LeVar is so interesting. I think he's more animated off camera, which is interesting.
Yeah. That you just blew my mind right now.
No, I'm so serious. Like I would just hang out in the lobby because, like I said, I didn't have access, so I had to be very sneaky. And it sounds a little creepy, and it kind of is. But hey, I'm a reporter, and I would just hang out in the lobby and. He's just so animated. Like everything is a show with him, whether the camera's on or off. It's just everything is a show. And I would just wait there and like listen to them and what they were talking about. And it's weird because the camera on and off was such a theme in the story because this 16-year-old is under so much scrutiny, and he's a completely different way on camera and off. And I think that the story, I wanted to just write about him, but I couldn't write about a 16-year-old without writing about his father. And so it could have been called like LaMelo and LeVar, honestly. But that was just an interesting thing for me because you see all these things written about this family, right? Like what hasn't there been written? That was one of the biggest challenges. I was coming up against ball fatigue. Nobody wanted to hear about them. Right. And so I had to, deliver something new, like show a side that people haven't seen before.
Yeah, I mean, when they end up portraying you on Saturday Night Live, that's usually when people have had enough.
Oh, I remember that.
That was pretty good.
That was really good. And it's funny because my TV went out right after that, and I was like, "Is this a sign? Now I can't even watch TV." Okay.
LeVar cut your cord.
Yeah, like something is happening in the universe.
Oh man, did you buy a pair of Big Baller brand shoes?
No, I did not buy a pair of Triple Bs. Excuse me. I didn't, but I will tell you, everyone's like, are you going to write the sequel? Are you going to go to Ohio or wherever he is? And I was like, honestly, I thought about it, but the Triple B, they won't even let me get close. I'm sure I'm not welcome in Lithuania ever again. I had a lot of Lithuania trolls on Twitter attack me for what I said about their food. And so I don't think I'll ever be able to get close again, but that's okay. I did my job.
That's it.
That's it.
You gotta, and if
I gotta move on.
if the food's bad, you got a reputation. You gotta report it how it is. Like if it's bad food, you can't just say it's good food.
I'm sorry,
you got a reputation.
I can't say there was cupcakes when there were not cupcakes. That's just not how it works.
Wait, there's no cupcakes in Lithuania?
Not where I was. There was.
Nope, let me out.
Yeah, it was a lot, but I got a lot of hate mail about that. They're like, there's more food than you had access to, and I was like, I wasn't writing a cookbook on Lithuania food. I was just saying I was in this situation and this was available, and that's it.
That's it. See there, look, now you just came up with a good book idea.
Oh my gosh, the Lithuania cookbook, agents. Yeah. If you're listening.
That's awesome. Yeah, let me write the foreword.
Okay.
Just be like, I don't know. It'd be very short. Like, I don't know anything about Lithuania, but I heard the food sucks, so read this book.
That'll work.
So I have a way with words. What can I say? Oh man. So what? So now what's next? What's next for you? Like, what is do you have any interesting assignments coming up that you're able to speak on, or just anything? You have any big plans of like what you want to do next?
Yeah, I'll speak in more general terms, I guess. Just got home from a reporting trip in Connecticut. This is a pretty big story. It's something I'm really passionate about. It's another one of those, like the football thing, kind of a story that has national resonance. It's much more. It's much more than the sport. It actually kind of touches on gender and civil rights. And so I'm super, super interested in this story. I've done a lot of reporting thus far. I wish I could share more, but I'm definitely excited about it. I think people think with long form that, you're writing like one story a month and you're just chilling by the beach. The truth is it's a grind, and I'm working on like 5 stories at one time. And every time I finish one and I breathe for a half second, oh, I have 5 interviews for this because we're doing this and the deadline is for that in 2 days. And so, but you have to love that grind. And I love that grind. And I know that I'm grateful to be able to have deadlines and this job. So whenever it gets to be a lot, I'm like, you know what? This is my dream. I'm so freaking happy I get to do this. And that's what keeps me going.
All right. And when any idea when this might be hitting Bleacher Report, so people can look out for it?
Yeah, it'll be either the first week of, I think it'll be like second week of December, mid-December. Yeah.
Okay. And where can everybody find you? I know I mean on Twitter and stuff, but where like, your Twitter website, where can people find you if they want to read more, or if they want to get in touch, interact with you? Maybe somebody, book agents are out there. Maybe they want to, want you to write that cookbook, anything.
Agents, please, open to a cookbook. My Twitter is, I'm really into that now. My Twitter is just Mirin Fader, Mirin Fader. And I would love it if you could check out my website, which I just redid. It's www.mirinfader.com. So yes, spend some time with the long form. Thank you.
It looks good. Looking website too. Is it? Did you do it yourself, or did you?
I got the template from an artist, which is awesome. But I basically structured and organized myself. I'm proud of myself. As you can see, we had some technology issues here, and so just the fact that I was able to pull off that website, I'm proud of that. So yes, please take a look.
Yeah, it's really good work. That's because I did the one for myself, and a couple of years ago, I just started reading up and learning how to work with WordPress. WordPress is amazing.
I love WordPress.
So, yeah. So, and but it looks really good. That's kudos to you. So
thank you.
If you want to write a book about, building a website too, maybe it'd be like a cooking / website building.
You're trying to get me out of sports writing. Is that what's happening here?
No. I'm just trying to,
versatile.
throw some ideas and just see what sticks.
I like it. I like it.
All right. We have been running now for 40 consecutive minutes without a problem.
Look at that.
So I appreciate you coming on and going through all the technical difficulties with me. And everybody check Mirin's work out on her website, her beautiful website that she created herself. And reach out to her on Twitter. If you got a podcast, maybe you want her to come on, or, write a cookbook or something else. But,
thank you so much.
Thank you, Mirin. And keep up the good work.
Thank you.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Lou Capetta. Thanks again for checking out my show. You can find the show anywhere you find your podcasts, including Spotify. And wherever you do listen, please leave a review, leave a rating. All that stuff helps us get noticed on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you really like the show, head over to Twitter or Instagram and follow us at Lou Capetta Show. Thanks again for checking us out. Peace.